The mind is the most complex and most powerful battlefield you will ever encounter. Unlike external battles that you can see, touch, and plan for, the battle within the mind is subtle, relentless, and often invisible. Every day, without realizing it, we engage in skirmishes with thoughts that threaten our peace, our confidence, and our destiny. The mind is where fear confronts courage, doubt challenges faith, and negativity wars against hope. Understanding that this is a battlefield changes everything. You cannot treat your thoughts lightly or dismiss the internal conflict as trivial, because what happens inside your mind directly shapes your life, your actions, and your outcomes. It is in this unseen war that victories and defeats are first decided before they ever manifest in the external world. The mind is constantly under siege. From the moment you wake up, opinions, expectations, and influences bombard your consciousness. Some of these forces seek to weaken you, to fill your mind with worry, anxiety, and discouragement. Others aim to build you up, instilling strength, clarity, and vision. But the critical factor is which voice you allow to dominate your inner world. If you allow fear and doubt to gain control, your mind becomes a prison, and every thought becomes a chain holding you back from your potential. Conversely, if you consciously choose faith, positive thinking, and disciplined focus, your mind becomes an instrument of creation, a wellspring of innovation, courage, and success. Every thought you entertain acts as a soldier in this ongoing war. Some are loyal and disciplined, ready to fight for your progress, while others are traitors, spreading confusion, hopelessness, and self-defeat. Recognizing the influence of each thought is essential. You must learn to identify the enemy within and understand that passivity is the greatest threat. Neglecting the battlefield of your mind allows destructive patterns to grow unnoticed, ultimately dominating your life. Awareness is your first weapon, because you cannot control what you do not observe. Discipline is your second weapon. Training the mind requires repeated, deliberate action. It is the daily effort to reject thoughts of fear and replace them with thoughts of faith, hope, and vision. It is the commitment to focus on solutions rather than problems, on possibilities rather than limitations, and on life rather than despair. This discipline is not a one-time decision. It is a lifestyle. It is the steady work of consistently choosing which thoughts to nourish and which to eliminate, knowing that each choice strengthens either the forces of victory or the forces of defeat. The consequences of this battle are immense. Every achievement, every act of courage, and every breakthrough begins with a thought. Likewise, every failure, every missed opportunity, and every moment of regret also begins in the mind. Understanding the battlefield within prepares you to approach life differently. You begin to see challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to train your mind, to strengthen your resolve, and to cultivate the thoughts that will carry you forward. The mind is not just a battlefield, it is the origin of destiny. Whoever controls the mind controls the outcome of their life. The thoughts you allow to dominate your inner world will shape your words, your decisions, your habits, and ultimately your future. In this battlefield, vigilance is essential because the war is constant and the enemy is clever, subtle, and persistent. Recognizing this truth is the first step toward mastery. Thoughts are not just fleeting moments in your mind. They are the architects of your destiny. The quality of your life is determined not by the circumstances that surround you, but by the nature of the thoughts you allow to dominate your inner world. Every decision you make, every action you take, and every emotion you experience begins with a thought. When you understand this, you realize that controlling your mind is not optional. It is essential. The mind is a powerful instrument capable of creating success, peace, and fulfillment, or it can become a destructive force that leads to fear, failure, and despair. The first step in mastering your thoughts is awareness. Most people are unaware of how much their minds dictate their lives. Negative thinking is often accepted as normal, and many allow doubt, worry, and insecurity to set the tone for their day. But thoughts have power far beyond what most realize. They influence emotions, behaviors, and even physical health. A single negative thought, if nurtured and repeated, can grow into a pattern that limits your potential, affects your relationships, and blocks opportunities. Conversely, positive, faith-filled thoughts create momentum, strengthen resilience, and open doors that once seemed impossible to pass through. Your mind is like fertile soil. Whatever you plant in it will grow. Plant seeds of fear, self-doubt, or resentment, and you will reap anxiety, missed opportunities, and unhappiness. Plant seeds of hope, courage, and vision, and you will harvest confidence, success, and joy. The key is choice. You have the authority to decide which thoughts to entertain and which to reject. You are the commander of your mind, and every thought is either a soldier for victory or a spy for defeat. Choosing to focus on life, giving thoughts, is not wishful thinking. It is a deliberate act of faith and discipline that shapes your reality. One of the greatest challenges in this battle is the subtlety of negative thinking. Fear often disguises itself as caution, doubt masquerades as realism, and worry presents itself as preparation. If you are not vigilant, these disguised enemies can dominate your mind without your awareness. This is why it is crucial to examine each thought carefully. Ask yourself whether it builds you up or tears you down, whether it aligns with truth or amplifies falsehood, whether it brings clarity or confusion. By doing this, you begin to reclaim control over the mind and redirect it toward productive, empowering directions. Another critical principle is repetition and reinforcement. Thoughts that are repeated consistently become habits, and habits shape character. Character, in turn, determines destiny. It is not enough to think positively sporadically. You must cultivate a mindset of victory consistently, day by day. This requires intentional focus, prayer, meditation, and self-discipline. Surround yourself with influences that reinforce positive thinking. Read, speak, and meditate on life, giving truths, and reject anything that feeds negativity. Your mind will gradually transform, and with it, your actions, decisions, and experiences will align with the vision you have nurtured within. Ultimately, mastering your thoughts is about mastery over life itself. You cannot control every circumstance, but you can control your response to them. You cannot always prevent trials, but you can determine the mindset with which you face them. Every great achievement, every act of courage, and every breakthrough begins in the mind. If you refuse to allow destructive thoughts to rule, you unlock the power to live a life of purpose, resilience, and extraordinary fulfillment. Negative thoughts are like weeds in a garden. They grow quickly, spread silently, and choke the life out of everything around them if left unchecked. Every worry, every doubt, and every fear is a seed that, when nurtured, multiplies and dominates the landscape of the mind. Most people do not realize that their inner world mirrors a garden. If they allow destructive thoughts to take root, they soon find themselves overwhelmed by anxiety, frustration, and a sense of helplessness. The power of the mind lies not in avoiding these thoughts, because that is nearly impossible, but in recognizing them and choosing what to feed. Positive thoughts, like seeds of life, require attention, nourishment, and deliberate care. When cultivated properly, they produce resilience, clarity, and a harvest of success. The first step is awareness. A garden cannot be tended if the weeds are hidden, and the mind cannot be disciplined if you are unaware of its contents. Negative thoughts often enter subtly, disguised as caution, realism, or memory. They creep in through fear of failure, regret over past mistakes, or worry about uncertain outcomes. If left unattended, they grow roots, spread, and eventually take over every corner of the mind. This is why vigilance is crucial. You must examine each thought as it arises and ask, does this thought serve life and growth, or does it promote doubt and destruction? By doing so, you begin to reclaim authority over your mental landscape. Discipline is the next essential element. It is not enough to identify negative thoughts. You must actively reject them and replace them with life-giving alternatives. When fear rises, replace it with courage. When doubt whispers, respond with faith. When resentment surfaces, counter it with forgiveness. This is not passive thinking. It is active, deliberate, and intentional engagement with your mind. Like tending a garden, it requires consistency and patience. Every day, every decision, every repeated thought contributes to either growth or decay. Over time, disciplined mental care transforms weakness into strength, confusion into clarity, and despair into hope. The environment of your mind also plays a critical role. Just as a garden flourishes with sunlight, water, and fertile soil, your thoughts thrive when surrounded by positive influences. The books you read, the conversations you engage in, the media you consume, all of these affect which seeds are nourished and which wither. Surrounding yourself with life, Affirming messages, encouragement, and wisdom creates conditions for your positive thoughts to take root and flourish. Conversely, exposure to negativity, criticism, and fear strengthens the weeds, giving them space to grow unchecked. Choosing your environment is part of the strategy to ensure that your mind becomes a garden of life rather than a wilderness of despair. Visualization and affirmation act as water and sunlight for the seeds of life in your mind. When you imagine success, speak words of encouragement to yourself and meditate on possibilities rather than limitations. You strengthen the growth of positive thoughts. These practices are not superficial. They train your mind to recognize opportunities, instill confidence, and cultivate resilience in the face of challenges. Over time, positive thinking becomes a habit, a natural response, and a source of internal power that shapes the reality you experience. Understanding the power of thoughts as seeds reminds you that every choice matters. Each thought you dwell on, each idea you entertain, and each mental pattern you reinforce either feeds the weeds or nurtures the garden. The harvest is determined by the seeds you consistently nourish, and the quality of your life depends on the care you give to your inner world. Awareness and discipline are the keys to reclaiming mental territory, because without them, the mind becomes a battlefield without a commander. Many people live their lives unaware that their thoughts are under constant attack. Negative influences, doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs infiltrate silently, shaping decisions and actions without permission. Awareness is the first step toward mastery. It is the lens through which you can see the enemy and recognize the patterns that threaten your peace and progress. When you become aware of the thoughts running through your mind, you no longer remain a passive participant in the battles of your life. You begin to understand that every fear, worry, or hesitation is a signal that needs attention, evaluation, and correction. Once awareness is established, discipline becomes the weapon that secures victory. Discipline is not punishment. It is the deliberate training of your mind to align with truth, purpose, and vision. It is the repeated act of choosing which thoughts to embrace and which to reject. Every moment you spend entertaining fear, self-doubt, or resentment is a moment the enemy gains ground in your mind. Discipline ensures that those moments do not become a habit, that every decision you make strengthens the forces of life, hope, and faith within you. Just as a general positions soldiers strategically on a battlefield, discipline positions your thoughts, creating order where chaos once reigned. The practice of mental discipline begins with small, intentional actions. Start by observing the inner dialogue that plays out throughout the day. Notice the patterns of criticism, worry, and negative assumption. Recognize when your mind drifts toward unproductive or destructive thoughts. Once you identify them, replace them with constructive alternatives. Fear can be countered with courage, doubt with faith, and despair with hope. This is not a one-time fix. It is an ongoing exercise, a daily commitment to train the mind as a steward of life rather than a victim of circumstance. Discipline also requires consistency and reinforcement. Thoughts repeated over time become habits, and habits shape character, while character shapes destiny. To reclaim mental territory, you must consistently feed your mind with truth, encouragement, and vision. Engage in practices that strengthen positive thinking, such as reflection, meditation, journaling, or affirmations. Surround yourself with messages and people that reinforce hope and faith rather than fear and doubt. Every decision to nurture a constructive thought fortifies the mind's defenses, gradually establishing dominance over destructive influences. Another critical element is intentional focus. The mind is easily distracted, and scattered attention allows negative thoughts to gain footholds. Awareness paired with disciplined focus creates clarity and purpose. By choosing to direct your mental energy toward goals, solutions, and possibilities, you prevent the enemy from planting seeds of confusion and despair. A disciplined mind evaluates circumstances carefully, discerns the truth, and chooses actions that align with long-term growth rather than short-term comfort or reaction. Reclaiming mental territory also involves resilience. Awareness and discipline do not make the mind immune to attacks. They make it capable of responding effectively. There will be moments when fear and doubt resurface, but a disciplined mind recognizes these as temporary, evaluates their source, and replaces them with constructive alternatives. This continual cycle of observation, correction, and reinforcement strengthens the mind, creating a stable inner environment from which every thought, decision, and action flows. Daily decisions shape your mind in ways far greater than most people realize. Every thought you allow, every word you speak, and every choice you make contributes to the architecture of your inner world. The mind is not shaped overnight. It is molded moment by moment, thought by thought. Success, peace, and resilience are not accidents. They are the result of consistent, deliberate decisions to focus, believe, and act in ways that strengthen the mind and cultivate positive outcomes. When you understand the power of daily decisions, you recognize that even the smallest choices, what you dwell on in silence, how you respond to challenges, and what attitudes you nurture, have the potential to transform your life. Each day presents countless opportunities to choose what will dominate your mind. You can allow fear, worry, and doubt to dictate your responses, or you can consciously select faith, hope, and courage. These choices are not passive. They require intention and vigilance. Fear often appears first, disguised as caution or realism. Doubt whispers, questioning your abilities and your worth. Anxiety paints worst-case scenarios, and distraction pulls your attention from what truly matters. The moment you recognize these influences, you gain the power to decide whether they will gain ground or be pushed back. Every decision to reject negativity and embrace constructive thinking strengthens your mental resilience and positions you for growth. Consistency is critical in shaping the mind. Just as repeated exercise strengthens muscles, repeated decisions to focus on what is positive strengthen your mental and emotional faculties. Discipline in thought creates habits that define character. Over time, these habits determine how you perceive challenges, interact with others, and respond to adversity. When you make daily decisions to cultivate hope and faith, you create a mindset capable of transforming trials into opportunities and setbacks into lessons. Each choice reinforces a pattern of thinking that builds confidence, clarity, and inner strength. The mind also thrives when nourished by intentional input. The books you read, the conversations you participate in, and the media you consume influence your mental landscape. Choosing daily to expose yourself to messages of encouragement, wisdom, and inspiration ensures that the seeds you plant in your mind grow into fruitful and life-affirming thoughts. Conversely, daily exposure to negativity, fear, or criticism strengthens harmful thought patterns, making it increasingly difficult to maintain control over your mental state. By taking ownership of what enters your mind each day, you guard the territory you are trying to reclaim and build an environment conducive to growth and victory. Prayer, reflection, and meditation are also essential tools in daily mental discipline. They provide space to evaluate your thoughts, align your focus with your purpose, and renew your perspective. When you begin each day with clarity, intention, and a commitment to nurture constructive thoughts, you create momentum that carries through every decision, interaction, and challenge. The mind, trained in this way, becomes a powerful instrument capable of turning obstacles into opportunities and visions into reality. Every action, every decision, and every thought you entertain contributes to the architecture of your mind. The accumulation of these daily choices determines not only your present state, but also the trajectory of your future. A mind cultivated intentionally becomes a source of strength, vision, and resilience, capable of navigating life's challenges with confidence and purpose. Victory comes to those who master their thoughts and nurture faith, because the mind is the control center of every outcome in life. Every achievement, every breakthrough, and every moment of peace originates in the inner world of thought before it manifests externally. Yet, so many people surrender this power, allowing fear, doubt, and negativity to dictate the direction of their lives. Mastery of the mind requires deliberate intention, consistent practice, and the conscious choice to align every thought with truth, purpose, and hope. When you understand that your thoughts are not merely fleeting moments, but powerful forces capable of shaping your reality, you begin to take authority over your life, rather than allowing circumstances to take authority over you. Mastery begins with recognition. The mind is constantly under attack by fear, insecurity, and negative patterns that have been cultivated over years. These influences whisper lies, amplify uncertainty, and encourage passivity. The first step toward victory is seeing these forces clearly, acknowledging their presence, and refusing to let them dominate your thinking. Awareness is not enough by itself. It must be coupled with the deliberate practice of choosing thoughts that reinforce faith, confidence, and clarity. This combination of recognition and choice empowers you to reclaim territory that was previously surrendered to doubt and worry. Faith is the fuel that sustains this victory. Faith is not a vague wish or idle hope. It is a conscious decision to trust in what is good, possible, and true, even when circumstances appear contrary. Faith transforms the mind by shifting focus from obstacles to solutions, from fear to courage, and from despair to hope. When you consistently nurture faith, it becomes the lens through which all challenges are viewed. Problems no longer paralyze you. They become opportunities to exercise resilience and creativity. Opportunities once missed are now seen and seized. Faith strengthens the mind, creating a foundation that can withstand adversity and produce consistent growth. Discipline remains a critical companion to mastery. The mind, left unchecked, is like a wild river, flowing wherever external influences push it. Victory comes when you exercise control over the current of your thoughts. Daily practice, repetition, and reinforcement of life-giving thoughts ensure that destructive patterns lose their power. Every choice to focus on hope over fear, courage over doubt, and vision over limitation fortifies the mind's defenses and builds a resilient inner framework. Victory is not a single moment, but the accumulation of countless small, intentional decisions to nurture constructive thoughts. The environment you cultivate also plays a vital role. Surrounding yourself with encouragement, wisdom, and positive influences reinforces mastery, while exposure to negativity, criticism, and distraction weakens your mental resilience. Like a well-tended garden, the mind flourishes when cared for intentionally. Prayer, meditation, reflection, and affirmations act as tools to strengthen focus, align thoughts with purpose, and maintain consistency in nurturing faith. Each deliberate act reinforces mastery, shaping the mind into an instrument capable of achieving extraordinary outcomes. Mastery of thought transforms life itself. It turns fear into courage, doubt into confidence, and obstacles into stepping stones. It empowers you to respond to challenges rather than react, to create opportunities rather than wait for them, and to live intentionally rather than passively. The mind, when mastered and filled with faith, becomes a source of unstoppable strength, clarity, and vision. Victory in life begins in the mind, and those who consistently choose to nurture it with faith and discipline will experience the reality of triumph in every area of existence.